evening, everybody. Good afternoon. I know it's very late or very early. I see a couple of people from my class. Adam, great to see you. And welcome to the webinar. I hope really that it will be an hour of learning about coaching. I'm going to share some of my experience with you, but I will also be sharing with you some tools and tips. So just want to say thank you very much for joining us. I'm very personally very passionate about coaching. I embarked on the coaching journey about 15 years ago when I enrolled for a diploma in coaching and mentoring. And I honestly never realized how many doors it would open for me in my career, but more importantly, how coaching would help me to challenge my beliefs and grow as a person. So I'm extremely passionate about teaching people the skill of coaching and the magic of the skill, as you are learning it, you will be able to experience it almost as a gift. So let's share our agenda of today, what we're going to be covering. So we will be covering high level, just a brief introduction. Perhaps you are new to coaching or you are already coaching. We'll give you a little bit of background about coaching. We'll also look at how to adopt a coaching mindset, because a coaching mindset is extremely important when we are coaching, and it's also linked to our beliefs. We will also be looking at servant leadership in a nutshell, as coaching is one of the most important skill sets of a servant leader. And we will be sharing the GROW framework with you, as well as 4 critical coaching skills. At the end of our hour, I hope we still have enough time, we will be looking at how we can incorporate a coaching culture within our organizations. We know that sometimes there's a lot of resistance. So how do we actually bring this culture into an organization? So before we continue, if you can maybe type in the chat box, what do you think is coaching? I would love to hear from you. What do you think is coaching? Any ideas? There's no right or wrong. Just to get a little bit of an idea, you can type the chat box. If you look at your scroll bar, you'll see that chat is there. So you can just type in the chat box for me. What do you think is coaching? What are your thoughts? Inspire people. Thank you, Adam. Absolutely, it's to inspire people. Any other ideas? Yes, to ask powerful questions, absolutely. Seeing the bigger picture, thank you, John. So when we are coaching, we are also helping people to see things from a different perspective, helping the conversation. I love that. Thank you, David. So it's also about encouraging people to share, as we will be learning powerful questions to help people to be able to share certain information with us. So thank you for those to understand, to improve performance. Thank you. Absolutely supporting to build skills. So it's a skill set. Thank you for that, Athena. It's a skill set that every person needs in their skill set. It enhances communication. And it's actually something, as I said, personally, that I've discovered that even helped me as a person to recognize my beliefs and to strengthen my natural talents, but also to become aware of my blind spots, the things that were holding me back. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that. So let's have a look at a definition of coaching. So if anybody has read Coaching for Performance, it was written by Sir John Whitmore, and he's one of the leading figures in the field of coaching. And he said that coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance. It is helping them to learn rather than teaching them. So it's one thing to aspire to that kind of coaching, but it's another to make it happen in everyday practice throughout the many layers of an organization. We know that at most organizations, there is a big gap between aspiration and practice. And that is why we are hosting this webinar, to create awareness about how to bridge it. We also focus first on how to develop coaching as an individual managerial capacity, and then on how to make it an organizational one. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the benefits of coaching. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we really want to talk more about the mindset of coaching. But just in a nutshell, the benefits of coaching is really that it can help an individual or a team to define their goals and also for them to be able to achieve their goals. So it is really important that the coach is there to assist, to keep the team or the individual accountable to what they have committed to. So I normally say coaching is not a fluffy conversation. It normally has specific actions that the coachee is committed to and that the coachee needs to do for them to bring them closer to their goal. Also, secondly, it increased the level of engagement. So coaching engaged teams. So we have normally one-to-one feedback, as well as lots of encouragement. And when an individual becomes engaged with their workplace, they can contribute more effectively. And this engagement also helps to increase retention rates as well as productivity. This is an important point, and it is really about psychological safety. Psychological safety is the #1 differentiator for high-performing teams. And coaching really creates that safe space for people to share, to talk perhaps about sensitive issues, to gain more perspective, as the coach is a very neutral entity. And the coach is asking powerful questions to encourage insight and clarity. The fourth benefit is a deeper level of learning. Why do we talk about a deeper level of learning? Corporate coaching isn't just about improving an individual skill in the workplace, but it really takes learning to the next level. So a person learns more about themselves and they find out how they are perceived by others. As I talked about the blind spot, it also helps them to improve those areas that are holding them back. The fifth benefit is building personal awareness. So a coach can help a person to become more aware. And this could be even little things like small habits that we're not aware of. Maybe it could be even something in our personality that is not benefiting us. And therefore, when we start to become aware of it, we can then learn skills to overcome those shortcomings. Lastly, support for improving specific skills. So having support for improved skills can be extremely beneficial. For example, if we want to lose weight, it helps when you actually have a support system. If you have people that are supporting you in some way for you to be able to achieve your goal. So coaching really provides that support. So let's have a look at, so that's just in a nutshell about coaching, a little bit of background about coaching. And of course, in our courses, we learn a lot more about Agile coaching, what is the foundations of Agile. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're going to talk about coaching. So where does it start? So it really starts with a coaching mindset. And if we think about a coaching mindset, what do you think is a coaching mindset? Maybe if you can type it in the chat box for me, how do you define a coaching mindset? Any ideas? Any ideas? How do you define a coaching mindset? Thinking of well-being of others. Thank you for that, Asmat. Absolutely. Commitment to make learning effective. Yes. It's not about you. Thank you, Dusty. I love that. It's not about you. It's about the other person. It's about moving the other person forward. It's also not about your agenda. Absolutely helping, guiding others, promoting introspection. Thank you for that, John. So when we're thinking about an agile or about an agile coaching mindset, it is very much linked to our beliefs about people. Okay, so before we look at that, let's look at the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And this concept was created by a lady called Dr. Carol Dweck in her groundbreaking research that investigated why some people fail and others succeed. So let's have a look in a nutshell at the differences. So first of all, a fixed mindset. So there are two mindsets, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. These mindsets are based on our perception and response to failure and challenging tasks. So people with a fixed mindset do not grow nearly as much as people who have a growth mindset, because people with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities or intelligence is fixed or stagnant. On the contrary, people who have a growth mindset are able to move past failures. They are able to get up from failures, and they are able to have a sustained effort because of their optimistic outlook. So we know that failure is hard. We know that it's hard when things doesn't work out the way we planned it. However, some people that have a growth mindset can move on. They can look beyond that part of change or failure and look at the opportunities. What is the opportunities that this bring me? So just in a nutshell, I'm not going to talk too much around growth mindset and fixed mindset, but let's look at it from a coaching perspective. So as a coach, your goal is to provoke insight by inviting team members to think harder and deeper rather than thinking for them. Now, it sounds very easy. And when I start to teach coaching during the first day, this is very hard for people to do, because our brain is wired to answer questions, to help people, to solve problems, to fix issues. So to change these patterns is really, really hard. And to learn how to pull insights out of your team members, you need to adopt beliefs that prompt you to explore their thoughts and their ideas. So when we are teaching coaching, as I said in the beginning, and for those people that's been on my coaching, I know the first day is very hard, because when people come up with a problem or a challenge, our first reaction is to help them. For example, if somebody says to you, you know what, I've lost my job, our first reaction is to say, you know, I have a friend that can help you to find a job. I know somebody in recruitment. However, that might not be the solution for that person in that moment in time. So when we are providing solutions, we are boxing people into our world, into our perspective, into our solutions. So with coaching, it is almost helping the person to think for themselves, for them to think about their own solution. Perhaps they want to take a year sabbatical, perhaps they want to do their MBA, or perhaps they want to enroll for a university degree. And that is what is so powerful about coaching, is that it really helps the person to think outside of the box. So let's talk a little bit more about beliefs. So there's a couple of beliefs. So our mindset is linked to our belief system. So there's a couple of beliefs that are helpful beliefs, but then there's a few that are not helpful. So if we are not getting the results that we want from people, where do we start? As leaders, we need to start with our belief system. And the first is to believe that people can learn, and that they can grow and they can change. That's the first belief. The second belief is that almost everyone wants to be successful. We generally know that people want to do their best. They don't want to perform poorly or be perceived as a failure. Third is that people will rise to the expectations set for them. They will blow your mind. If you stop giving ideas, answers, and advice and start challenging your team members, thinking they might just surprise you. So this is the power of coaching. The next, a couple of more beliefs, is that people generally know more about their own problems than you do. And that's very true. As the example about a person losing their job or making a career change, they actually have the solution. They know what they need to do. And when we're moving into coaching, it is really for us to be able to help the person to explore their ideas. There is more than one way to do most things. And this is very interesting and it's very true. Even in my workshops, for every single scenario or a group exercise that I give people or groups, they come up with different solutions. I haven't seen one group coming up with the same solution. That's interesting and it's actually amazing. People are more committed to their ideas than others. So what does it mean? It means that when people come up with their own idea, they are going to be committed and they are going to be accountable. We know that when we are building high performing teams, most of the challenges that we have is that the team is not committed and they don't take accountability. So where coaching fits in is when we are coaching them, it is about their ideas, the buy-in of those ideas, and for them to be able to be committed to those ideas. So just a few more beliefs as well that is not helpful. So here are some of the beliefs. I'm not going to read through all of them, but maybe you recognize that in yourself, or maybe you recognize it in your organization where you are working right now. Maybe your organization their mindset is around these beliefs. And it's that what you see is what you get. You know, people just don't care. You hear that every day. People will get away with doing as little as possible. Okay. My experience is more valid than your experience. And people generally just do what they are told. So when we are having problems with coaching, we need to go back to our own belief system, our own intent of our coaching journey. And we will be quite surprised that those people that are considered as uncoachable are very capable of learning and growing and succeeding once we actually change our own belief system as a coach. So I want to share a small study with you as well, and we will share it with you in the chat box if you want to read a little bit more about it. Maybe you are already aware of or you've heard of it. It is called Project Oxygen. So Google conducted a decade-long research on what makes some managers better than others. And interestingly enough, they found that there's only one. There's a couple, but the most important characteristic of a good manager or successful manager is that they are good coaches. So that's quite interesting. And secondly, that they empower teams and avoid micromanaging. Backed on that is also a very interesting study that was done by Gallup, and they also realized that shifting the mindset from boss to coach can drive employee engagement. So this is just some notes that you can read, and again, we will be sharing that with you in the chat box as well. So let's talk a little bit more about servant leadership. We know that servant leadership is one of the pillars of an agile mindset. It is the values, it's one of the values. We cannot be agile if we are not a servant leader. We will just be doing agile, but we won't be agile. So in the chat box, please type in, what do you think is servant leadership? What is servant leadership? Any thoughts? Thank you, Asmat. Putting others first, yes. Being available, yes. Serve the team, thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Okay. So servant leadership, thank you so much for that. Thank you for the answers. So servant leadership is, as I said, the cornerstone. Empathy, thank you so much. It is about serving people. Empowering, thank you, David. Okay, so thank you so much. So when we are looking at servant leadership is really very, very important when we are looking at coaching. Okay, so coaching and servant leadership go hand in hand. Servant leadership is about putting your people first. It is about giving them the right amount of direction and support for the task at hand, and then getting out of the way so that they can do their best work. We know what is the ultimate goal of an agile process or Scrum is to build self-organizing teams, teams that are independent of the leader. It is a process. However, coaching is one of those skills that we need as a servant leader. So servant leadership, I see it in many organizations where they're embracing servant leadership as one of their values or one of their culture or as one of their cultural um, pillars. However, servant leadership is not something new. Servant leadership was created by a man called Robert Greenleaf. You can read a little bit more about him. And he basically said the measure of a leader is how you grow people. How you grow people. And he said that in 1970. That's maybe before any of us were even born. So servant leadership was around for many, many years. And let's dive a little bit deeper into servant leadership to see what does it mean? What does servant leadership mean? So servant leadership is really about serving people, as I've seen in the chat box. It is about sharing your power and control to drive engagement. It is about measuring success through growth and development. It's about listening versus speaking. And it is about understanding. It is not about you. It is not about your position. Rather, it is about the team. So leading with agility is all about servant leadership. And there's many courses that we offer around leadership, leading with agility. And this is really around how to transform your culture from a command and control to an organization that encourage and empower teams to perform at their best. So most companies, if we know, most companies are moving away from traditional command and control practices. We see this, and however, many organizations are still in that way in which they lead through command and control. So we are going to look at how to actually bring coaching into your culture. So coaching is a critical leadership competency. We know that. We don't know that from Project Oxygen. We've heard about coaching. There's another reason why coaching is becoming critical. And in the face of rapid disruptive changes, as we are living in now, companies are starting to realize that managers can't be expected to have all the answers. Did we know all the answers last year, March, when we went into lockdown? We didn't know the answers. And that command and control leadership is no longer viable because we don't know how the world is going to look like 1 week from now, 2 months from now, next year this time. As we know, we are living in a VUCA world, which means it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's unpredictable, and it is ambiguous. So as a result, many companies are moving towards a coaching model. They want to incorporate this coaching in their culture to help the managers, to give managers or leaders the skill to facilitate problem solving and encourage people, the employees, to come up with their own solution, to encourage innovation and creativity. So there is many reasons why coaching is becoming part of many cultures in organizations. So what is important as well is that we need to know that with the right tools and support, almost anybody can become a coach. You don't need to have a university degree. You don't need to have organizational experience. You don't need to be an expert in the industry of the person that you are coaching. For example, if you're coaching an engineer, you don't need to know about engineering. Or if you are coaching somebody that is in IT, you don't need to know IT. You don't need to have that skill. However, coaches have a specific skill set. And that comes with learning, with training, as well as practicing those coaching skills. Okay, so let's have a look at Agile coaching skills. So in your opinion, what do you think are the characteristics of a coach? What is the skill set that a coach need? You can type it in the chat box if you don't mind. Coach style leadership. Okay, listening skills. Thank you so much, Seema. Okay, so listening skills are very important. Absolutely. Learning, collaboration. Yes, thank you. Questioning skills. That's spot on. Thank you, David. Problem solving. Patience. I love that. I love that, yeah. Patience. You need to have patience. We need to be able to be present in the moment with that person. Capacity to turn vision into reality. Thank you, Markesh. Researching. Yes. Facilitation. Empathy. I love that. So empathy is very important. To be able to praise and award the team. Absolutely. Okay. I love that because it's about bringing your positive and inspiring persona to the coaching. Collaborative, yes, absolutely. So everything is spot on. Thank you so much for participating and for sharing that. Trusting. Thank you, Aparna. Yes, trust is extremely important. Belongingness. We need to be able to trust. So when you embark onto a coaching journey with your individual or with teams, there's a certain way that you need to set up the coaching. You can't just jump in and coach somebody. You need to set it up in a way to create a safe space. We call it psychological safety. And for the person to know what can they expect from coaching. As we know, there's a lot of misperceptions, misconceptions about coaching. Most people that embark on a journey of coaching think that they will be advised or mentored about their problems and that you will come on as the expert to coach them. However, we need to set the expectations to the coachee to say that the work will be done by you. You will be doing the work. Are you prepared to work for what you are want to achieve? What is it that you want to achieve, and how prepared are you to work for that? So many coaches fail because they don't do the setup, and they just jump into the grow model. So the grow model is a framework. Again, the important part of this is that we need to have the right mindset. We need to have the beliefs around coaching before we even embark on creating a coaching session where we will take a person through the grow model. So as a result, many organizations are moving towards adopting a coaching model. Okay, so you need to learn the framework in our courses, the Agility ACC course. We do teach the grow model, and we take you through the process of learning how to do that within a safe space. Okay, so the goal, it starts with identifying the goal. What is the goal? What is the purpose of this coaching session? The reality, where are you right now? What is happening right now? Why haven't you achieved your goal yet? What is stopping you? Okay, what are the obstacles? So here we're exploring the person's reality. The options is where we really say, okay, let's take a step back and see what can be achieved. What are your options for moving forward? And this is the part where we're trying to unstuck the person, where we're trying to help them to see beyond where they are right now. And it is about the coach's power, the skill of powerful questioning. It is also allowing space for the person to think about their problem. So coaching creates that platform for the person to think about what are their options, are there anything that I haven't considered yet? And then we move into way forward, which is really identifying small steps towards achieving your goal. Those steps need to be realistic. It needs to be time bound, which means that there needs to be a time connected to those steps. in order to have accountability and commitment. So part of coaching is also support. So in this process, we ask the person, who can support you and how committed are you on a scale of 0 to 10 to achieve your goal. So as I said, in our coaching sessions, we take people through that and we help them to practice it. We teach coaching within 4 days. So it is a really, really easy skill to learn. However, it is something that you need to unlearn and relearn. Okay, as I said, most of us, our brains are wired to help people, to provide solutions, to provide advice. And therefore, it's almost unlearning that and relearning a new skill. So the coaching arc is also part of the process. And again, it's almost like crossing a mountain. In the beginning, the coach is just listening, and coach or coachee or team is venting and just talking about this problem, about this challenge that they're having. And then the coach guide them throughout the next process where they are articulating the topic. So what is it that they really want to achieve? And what is it that it's going to give them? So it's not so much about the problem, but more about how it is affecting them in their workspace, in their personal life. And then the coach takes the coachee through the next process where we are brainstorming about actions that we can take. And here we want to get to as many actions and solutions as possible, even if it sounds strange, even if it's not possible. And the last part is to get into action. So coaching is a journey. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. In our Agile coaching course, we teach people to conduct a coaching session within 10 minutes. So you will be able to do a coaching session within 10 minutes. However, we advise that you have a coaching journey. So for example, every week or bi-weekly, to have that follow-up session with your coachee. So are there any questions up to now? Are there any questions? Everybody's still okay? I hope everybody's still good. Before I move into the 4 communication skills. Okay, so any questions up to now? Excited to be here. That's great. Thank you so much. Great learning so far. Thank you so much. We will have a Q&A. At the end of this workshop, we will have a Q&A as well. And of course, you can connect with us afterwards. So let's just look at the key elements of servant leadership and how does that link to being an effective coach. So once we have learned the GROW framework, it is not just about the GROW. We can do coaching, we can do the framework. However, as we said, it's about our mindset, it's about our beliefs, and then it is also more importantly about these 4 skills, which I'm going to share with you. So the first skill is to build trust. You need to be able to build trust with your coachee or with your team. Without trust, it will be a very hard journey for you to coach. So being a leader who serves, because remember, we want to be servant leaders and coaches, it gives you even more opportunity to establish and to build trust with each person on your team. And the good thing about it is that it also helps them to get to know you better. So if you carve out time, even if it's 10 minutes every week for your team members, you will be able to know them and they'll be able to know you better. So leadership is a pleasure when you know you're building meaningful relationships with your people. It becomes less of a burden. It becomes easier when we have trust. Everything becomes easier when we have trust within our relationships. So number 1 is trust. The second skill is inquire for insight. So here again, it starts with our mindset. We want to draw out ideas from our team, from our people, because when we are drawing out ideas, we are getting a lot more perspectives. Okay, so using well thought out questions to seek information in our courses, again, we are teaching people what is the difference between a normal question and a powerful question. And it is normally an open-ended question. For example, Can you tell me more about that? Or if you say it's been hard for you in lockdown, what do you mean? Okay, tell me more. So check for understanding and also to be able to promote deeper thinking. So inquire for insight. Inquire why is it that the person is experiencing it in that way, and what is it that they can do about that. So the third skill is listen to learn. Okay, so when we are listening to learn, when we think about a characteristic of a great leader, we first think about being a good listener. We even think about our role models of people that are great leaders. Those people have the skill of good listening. And it is the first thing that comes to mind. Why? Because when people appreciate a manager who cares about what they think, when you begin a conversation with someone, eliminate the distractions so that you will be able to be present and to be focused. Open your mind to their ideas, to their perspectives. Resist the temptation to interrupt. Allow the person time to think before they speak. In our course, we also teach our participants how to pay attention to non-verbal cues. For example, tone of voice, emotions, body language, and also to be able to apply active listening. So restate your impression of what the person is saying, and that's something that we teach, which is paraphrasing or summarizing what the person is saying in your own words. Most importantly is think of listening with the intent to be influenced. So again, it's about our mindset. It is about our belief that we are rather open to be influenced and that we are open to listen to other people's perspectives and opinions. The last skill is giving honest feedback. So as a leader, sharing information can help people make decisions in the best interest of themselves, of the department, or their organization. So we know that giving feedback is hard. It's also hard to receive feedback. Why? Because sometimes telling the truth can be very uncomfortable. So before sharing information, think first, will what I have to say help a person succeed? And how can I convert that into constructive, positive feedback? Will this problem be resolved? Okay, and could this information help the person avoid obstacles so that they can succeed sooner? So the ability of giving constructive, honest feedback is a skill. It's not something that we learn in school, at university, or even in the workplace. I have people in my program that's been working in corporate for many, many years and never learned the skill of giving constructive feedback. So that's something that we also learn in our course. So coaching culture. So what is a coaching culture? So again, many people come onto the program. However, when they go back into their company or into their organization, they find that it is very difficult to coach. Why? Because maybe the organization is not sold on the idea of culture, of coaching. Maybe they still function in a command and control kind of environment. And therefore, I'm going to share a little bit, and we're almost done, a little bit of information about bringing a coaching culture into your organization because it's important. And the most important part is that we need to explain why. We need to articulate the why behind the fact that we're bringing in culture or coaching into our organization. So if you want the organization to embrace coaching, or your team, or even if you're a small business owner or working in a large organization, as not just a personal skill, but also a source of cultural strength, you'll have to make it clear why it's valuable for the business and their own success. So articulating the why can also involve helping people to see the collateral benefits of coaching. And I will share a quick story with you. I know we're almost running out of time. And the story is really about a company called Allen & Overy. They are a law firm. And they basically had a person, his name was David Morley, and that person was a senior partner in the organization. And he went on to a coaching course, and he really wanted to bring coaching into the organization. So he started to talk about, with his colleagues, about the importance of high value conversations. And as we know, we have many, many conversations with our team members, with people in our organization. Morley said that as a senior leader, you have roughly around 100 conversations a year that are particularly high value, in the sense that they will change your life or the life of the person that you are talking to, or the person that is sitting in front of you. So we want to help you acquire the skills to maximize value in those 100 conversations, to unlock previous hidden issues, to uncover new options, and to reveal fresh insights. So almost everybody in a key leadership position at the firm recognized that they are struggling with how to make the most of conversations and even meetings. And they could readily see that they lacked the skill. So for each person working at Allen & Overy, it was extremely beneficial to acquire the skill of coaching, to be able to have those high value conversations that are meaningful, and it could even be life-changing. And you can apply this in your day-to-day conversations, in your personal life, in your workspace, even in your meetings. So to wrap up here, just a few more tips, and we are diving a lot deeper into these in our course again. Most important, self-awareness. So as a coach, you need to be able to be self-aware. It starts with you. It starts with your mindset and your belief system. Asking permission. Very important is that you need to be able to set up the coaching in such a way that the person agree to it, they understand coaching, and they know what is required of them to be able to make this a successful coaching journey. Being present, most important. Many people know about mindfulness, being present, being in the moment, in your mind, body, heart, and soul. Be there when you're having those conversations. And it's hard. It is hard. We've got phones, we've got laptops, we've got messages, so many things that is distracting us from really listening. So that is a key skill. And last is body language. Funny enough, we know that most of our conversations now take place online. So how do we actually notice a person's body language, and how do we encourage people online to be able to share? And it is an art. So these are just a couple of tips. Again, making sure that when we are actually coaching, that it starts with our beliefs, it starts with our mindset, it starts with the intent to build trust, to listen, and for us to be able to change ourselves to be the best coach that we can be. So I would like to ask you in the chat box, as we are coming closer to the end of our session, for you to type in the question in the chat box, what stood out for you during this webinar? Is there one thing that you can take away from this webinar, from this hour of your precious time that you've spent with us? Anything that stood out for you? If you can maybe share that with us in the chat box. Thank you. Servant leadership. Thank you, John. The coaching arc. Mindset and skills. Thank you, Matthew. Stick to some basics. Absolutely. So listening, start with listening. Skills start with listening. Even now when you're leaving your office and you're walking into your lounge with your family, just start listening. It's something that we can practice in the moment. Articulating the why. Thank you. Build trust before becoming a coach. Thank you. Be patient. Thank you, Siam. Patience, trying to understand others. Okay. Thank you, Markesh, delivering the honest feedback in a positive way. Thank you. yes, the skill of feedback is extremely important, something that we sometimes never learn. However, it's extremely important for people's development and for them to be able to work on those things that they're not aware of. We call it blind spots in the coaching world. Okay, so thank you so much. New ways of coaching, grow model. Thank you so much. Thanks. The grow model is very powerful. Coaching is much more than teaching. Thank you, Janak. Absolutely. Thank you so much for everybody's participation and typing into the chat box. It's really great to have a bit of a two-way communication during the webinar, so thank you. So I want to close by saying, remember that Charles Darwin had a most profound quote, and he said that it is not the strongest of species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. And therefore, Agile becomes extremely important. It becomes so important for us during these times to be Agile, to live Agile, and for us to be able to react during times that is turbulent, during times that require a lot of more input and skill from our side. So just a few resources that I can share with you. The first is Coactive Coaching. So if you want to read a little bit more about coaching, I found this book. This is the latest version. However, many years ago, I had the first Coactive Coaching book. It's a really great book. If you want to learn more about the skill of coaching, Coaching for Performance, also an awesome book from Sir John Whitmore. And then also the foundations of Agile leadership, servant leadership in action, and non-violent communication. This book is really great if you want to improve your communication, if that's something that is lacking in terms of creating stronger relationships with people at work and even in your personal life as well. So I'm going to open up the room just for some Q&A. We have a few minutes. However, we will be sharing our contact details afterwards. So if you have any questions, I saw that somebody asked, is it recorded? Yes, this is recorded. So you're welcome to get that recording from us as well. Just any Q&A at this point in time, maybe if we can answer a few. What is the reason to ask permission as a coaching technique? Can you give an example? Thank you for that, Dusty. So again, very important when we're asking permission, it is also to get buy-in from the person for them to be able to be part of that process. So we also always ask for permission, and the permission could be for them to be able to give their 100% in that process. As a senior manager, do you need to ask permission to coach for each member of your team? No. So that's not important, or that's not necessary. What is important is that when you bring coaching into your team, maybe to have a session with the team in advance before you start coaching, just to explain coaching and to ask their permission to coach them, and to also explain that it is a partnership. It's a partnership. Coaching is a partnership, which means that there's going to be work that needs to be done from their side. Okay. In going into command control, what's your first step as a coach to influence mindsets? Thank you so much for that, John. That's a great question. So it's something that I could say, that we could put out there into the group as well. Most important is, number one, is to start to become self-aware of our own mindset. And sometimes we see that when we start to change, people start to change around us, circumstances start to change. And what we've seen in the Agile world is that the biggest obstacle is leadership. So if you can change the leadership's mindsets, that can get you to a far way, for you to be able to move from there. So I would say start with the leadership. Bring them onto our courses. Okay, John, if not coaching, does it work in all situations? Thank you, Simon. So coaching is for specific situations. So for example, it's a very, very good question there, Simon, because sometimes people are confused about the difference between coaching, mentoring, consulting, and counseling. Okay, and there's a big difference between these practices. In our course, we actually teach that as well. And it is very important for you as a coach to know the difference between each of these practices, and to also know when you're mentoring, when you are consulting, when you are coaching, and when a person actually needs counseling instead of coaching. Okay. When going into command, okay, so that's basically the questions. I'm going to hand you over. If there's any more questions, please connect with us. You're welcome to connect with us. If a single person effort turns out to be achievement for team, do we appreciate, should mention the person name or should appreciate the team? Okay, that's a good question. If a single person's effort turns out to be an achievement, again, I think it's a great opportunity to give that person in person, to give them feedback, to give them the positive feedback, to tell them exactly what you appreciate, and be as specific and detailed as possible in terms of telling them what you appreciate about what they've done. Okay, so never shy away from giving positive feedback. It is really, it will help you to build trust with your team. Okay.